A 5-window cab trumps 3 windows. Here's more on this popular conversion.
2-minute tech.
We're making great progress on the 3 to 5 window conversion on Project Class 6. Like we showed you, we've got the outside panel done, and even the inside panel is finished. Basically, the Chevs of the 40s inner and outer panels have served us well. Now all we got to do is scab this one in on the other side, make it where we can actually see through it. But we wanted to remind you also that we removed the fuel tank because, let's face it, R&I on a fuel tank is a heck of a lot easier to deal with than skin graft, so be careful at home.
Now, to keep the spot weld cutter from walking around like they have a habit of doing, we went ahead and drilled 1/8-inch pilot holes to make sure that doesn't happen. Now, the rest of the panel removal involves using the cutoff wheel. Now, we made our cut along the door jamb close to the weather stripping, so our repair will be less visible. Now, the cut closer to the center window will be right next to a factory seam, because it has strength in that area and it will minimize the warpage when welding the new panel in. And since this is hopefully the last time we see this interior cab brace, we went ahead and scuffed off the surface rust we had access to and hit it with some rust-preventing primer. We don't want our truck rotting from the inside out. Now, just to be absolutely sure we don't have any corrosion or rust issues between the replacement panel and the factory sheet metal, we applied some seam sealer over top all of the welds and around all of the edges, just for some extra insurance. Now, to prep the interior panel for installation, we're drilling about a half-dozen holes for plug or rosette welds. And to make sure we don't have any contamination in those welds, we're grinding away the E-coat that surrounds the holes that we drilled. Now, in the areas that we have access, we're using our punch tool again, just because it limits the amount of possible distortion from drilling holes. But if you don't have a punch tool, well, the drill bit will get the job done. Now, with the panel trimmed to fit and sanded down on the edges, we're going to go ahead and install it and start the welding on the outside of the panel closest to the center window. That way we can work the area around the window opening and make sure all the contours line up. We're using a variety of locking pliers to move the metal around and get it to go where we want to. But a low buck alternative is just to use sheet metal screws to hold everything in place while you're doing the welding. Part of the persuasion process sometimes involves a hammer. Now, just like with any sheet metal work, and like we always tell you, move your spot welds around so you don't concentrate the heat in one particular area and cause the sheet metal to warp. All right, with our 5th window fully welded in, we get to grind down the 1,000 or so tack welds holding this thing together. Then we'll come back, do a little bit of finish work, make sure all the seams are nice and smooth. We should be ready to move on to the next step.